Hey friends, Jessie here from JessieBanks.com and welcome back to another video. So today I've been talking a long time about swatching my Stoneground paint collection and that's what we're gonna do. So let's get into it. Alright, let's start the swatching. So I'm going to kick things off here with the Nickel Titanium Yellow. This one is PY53. It is a fairly opaque color. I do really enjoy it for mixing greens and things. It tends to brighten them up quite a bit. So what I'm going to try and do, make no promises, is have the more mass tone color up at the one side and then fade it out to be nice and light down at the bottom of the circles, so we kind of get a little bit of tones of all of them. I do enjoy the Stoneground paints. They re-wet really nice. You have your some of your colors that are a little more difficult. Usually the natural stones, when we get to those, I tend to wet them early, but I do take all of my paints that I'm going to use, or the whole palette if I don't know what I'm painting, and I put a drop or two of water on each pan. I do that for all of my brands of paint, regardless of whether it's handmade paints or if I'm using like my Senneliers or Daniel Smith's or anything of that nature. So this one here is a nice warm yellow. This is Hansa Yellow. It is PY74. It's very pretty, very bright, very summery. And summer's coming and I'm so excited. Next up is Gamboge. This is PY150. So this is the color that a lot of companies use in their new versions of Quinacridone Gold. So they mix PY150 and PO48, which is in this palette as well. Some add another one. I like how it's like brown and more brown and dirty in its mass tone, this PY150, and it fades out into a really nice bright yellow. I just think it's a very interesting transition. It almost looks like two separate colors, but it's not, I guess. I'm hoping I can chat through this whole thing. We'll see. I don't know. Next up is Lemon Ochre. Lemon Ochre is PY43. This is more of a dirtier yellow. And I really enjoy the Stoneground paints. Now these guys are kind of local to me. They're in Regina. They're handmade in the Black Dog Art Supplies store, which I go and visit them every time I'm in the city, and I'm in the city quite often. But they sell them all online. I will have the link to them in the description box below if you wish to go check out their offerings and see, maybe pick up a couple for yourself. I thoroughly enjoy this palette. I haul it with me all over the place. Fellsight, I put this with my yellows, but I kind of use it as a yellow and as a brown. I should be able to get it a little darker. I didn't leave it soak very long. This is one of those ones that takes a little bit to re-wet. So the water has to kind of soak into it and get it moving. You can't just touch it with your brush and have it go. There we go. But you can see how it's like it's a brown, but it makes really pretty greens, but I like dirty colors. So that's kind of where that is. I'm going to move this to the side so I'm not reaching across all the time. Next up is Derelied Yellow, which is like an orange. This is PY83. This is a newer color to them, I do believe, out of their releases. I hope we get more. I'm greedy. I want like a Quinacridone Red or a Quinacridone Pink out of them. Really like a true pink color as opposed to the magenta, which is more on the purple side for me. I keep asking. One day they'll cave. One day, I tell you. So that is Derelied Yellow. Next up is the Quinacridone Red Gold. So this is the PO48. This is the other color that can mix the old Quinacridone Gold, the new version of it, with being a mixed color as opposed to a single pigment color. But I like this color on its own. It's another one that is very red in its mass tone and washes out to be a really pretty orangey type color. Next is Brilliant Orange, which is very orange. It's almost crouching on red in its mass tone. This one is made from PO36. And I will post all of these photos, I will post photos of these swatch sheets over on my blog if you want to go have another look at them after and kind of see the pigment numbers and everything all written out for you. So that will be over there. But this one's pretty. This is another one that's fairly opaque in its mass tone. The paper I'm using, this is one of the SMLT sketchbooks. It's not my favorite paper. I like it for gouache and things of that nature. Not so much watercolor, but I really liked the layout and I thought it would be awesome for a swatch book. So I'm kind of thinking I might go through all of my paints and things and do a swatch of kind of all of my palettes and all of my pencils and all of everything that'll fit in this book anyway. So there might be more videos of just swatching products I own in this and then having it handy so that I can easily check what I have for colors and things of that nature. So this is kind of the start to it all because every time I use these paints I talk about doing a swatch of all the colors I currently have in my collection, and I have, aside from all of the pearlescents, I have almost all of them. I think I'm missing like 5 or 6. And I may pick them up just to kind of complete the set, but we'll see. So that was Marigold Orange, and that's PO34. It is slightly more red than the Brilliant Orange. Next up is Pyrrole Red. This is probably my most used red shade currently. I wish we had a pinker one like I said, but in time. They're handmade paints in like the back room of an art supply store. It is super cool when I get to go in there and kind of see what they're doing and what they're coming up with. With COVID, that's not as allowed as it was before, so hopefully one day I'll be able to get in there and film a video for you guys and make some paint and post that, because that would be really cool to make paint in a place that like sells paint as opposed to just making paint for myself. I think that would be a really fun video to do. So we've tossed around that idea for a while, and then, you know, COVID happened. So that was PR 254. Next is PR 170, and that's Naphthol Red. So they've all got just slightly different undertones. That's kind of why there are so many different colors in the same color family, I suppose, everywhere. I'm really running out of things to talk about in case you can't tell. But I do really enjoy these. I painted a bunch of leaves with them the other day, and I just think they're fun. So this is Scarlet. This is PR 112. This is probably the closest thing to a pink color that they have in this line right now. It mixes really nice purples. It does. It's not as pink as I would like it to be, because I'm greedy and I want all the things. Add a little bit more into that mass tone there. And I want all the things because I'm Jessie and I am greedy. Next up is Mayan Red. So the Mayan colors, as well as some of the other colors that are made from natural stones, of course, do not have pigment numbers, but this is Mayan Red. This color is gorgeous. Gorgeous. I think the only Mayan color I don't have out of their entire line is the Mayan Green, and I actually wrote it down on my list of things to pick up the next time I go into the city and stop in to see my friends over there. So I love this. It's very much like a blood red, and I think that's why I like it. It's kind of gory and it just makes me happy. So that's Mayan Red. Next up is Quinacridone Magenta. So this is kind of a pink, but not a pink. I always find magentas are more purple than I would like them to be. I want it a little warmer than this, but this will work. This will make probably your most vivid purples, mixing this with the different blues in the palette. But it's just not, I'm greedy. Quit justifying it, Jessie. Just be honest. You're greedy. You want all the colors. And that's just the way it is. So there's Quinacridone Magenta. Next up is Perylene Maroon. This is one of my favorite colors in everybody's line. I love Perylene Maroon. I also love things like Perylene Green. I would love to see a Perylene Green added to this line. Would be another one that I would request and hope will come one day. One day. One day. If you watch this, Jenny, Perylene Green and a Quinacridone Rose or Red would be wonderful. Just putting it out there. Anyway. Oh, the random thoughts I have while trying to talk through a swatching video so that I don't have to voice it over after, because that's even worse when it's swatching videos. Because if I have to voice it over afterwards, I don't know how long I'm on each color, so I don't know how much stuff I can talk about, and then I end up 5 colors behind, and 3 breaths later, I'm 22 colors ahead. So your Perylene Maroon is PR 179. If I've missed any of the pigment numbers as we go through this, like I said, if you go into the description box, I will have a link to my blog, and I will have this photo, as well as there's a link to the store in the description box and on my blog. So you can check out those pigment numbers if you are interested in that part of watercolors. I'm a nerd and I like to know that. Bordeaux is PR 12. This is another purpley type red. Ultramarine Rose. When I picked up my first paints from a Stoneground, Jenny was working in the store and it was at their old location. And she actually gave me this one to add just to try out and play with. I think they were still fairly new at that time. And I really didn't think I would like it, but I love this purple. I think it's really pretty. So Ultramarine Rose is PR 254, so it is a red pigment. Or 259, pardon me. 254 is the Pyrrole color. So 259. And it is a really pretty purple. Really pretty. It's kind of soft and dainty. Dioxazine Purple is next, and this is PV 23. Out of all of the paint companies that I currently own paints to, and all of the Dioxazine Purples I have, this one is my favorite. In its mass tone, it is almost black. I'm sure this one sucks every time they put it on the stone because it has to get everywhere. And as you wash it out, it is the most beautiful purple color. This is my favorite one. It re-wets so nice with just a touch of your brush. And I just find it heaven to play with. So if you're looking for a Dioxazine Purple and you don't have one in your stash, or you're looking for a new one to play with, this one is genuinely my favorite out of all of the ones I own. Next up is Mayan Violet. Again, this is another one that does not have a pigment number. So it is like a blue toned purple. I think it's pretty. They all are. If I didn't think they were pretty, I didn't have them. My favorites come when we get to the dirty colors. But Mayan Violet is really nice. It granulates a little bit. Actually, granulates quite a bit. The brush I'm using for my swatching is just a cheap Simply Simmons brush. I didn't want to use anything too soft when I'm scrubbing around in paints and just swatching and then rinsing, so it does have a very nice point on it. I've used it for watercolor paintings. I have no problems with it. It's not necessarily my favorite brush, but it works. Next up is a Victoria Green. This is PG 51. So I start off my palette here with a couple really soft greens. I like this one. It's very bright. It's not like minty or anything like that, like the next one. But it's really nice. It's kind of soft. It's super bright. I like it for underpaintings. I like it to add highlights to trees. I enjoy tossing it in some of my grid mixes just to give it a little bit of life or light underneath. Next up is Malachite. This is PG 39. This is like my mint color. It is very much a mint green. And it is super pretty. I didn't think I was going to use it a ton when Eric talked me into it. I reach for it more than I really thought I would. Again, it's one I use primarily for underpaintings. I don't use it a ton for mixing or anything like that. It granulates, and it's really just beautiful. If I am going for a mint green, I will reach for this color all on its own. All on its own. Next is Hooker's Green. This one's really dark. This is PG8. There is something on this paper. It could just be from me erasing, but it's kind of resisting the watercolors. Like I said, it's not my favorite watercolor paper, but I think it's going to be the perfect swatch book. So this one is really, really dark in its mass tone. It does, in lighter tones, I think it's pretty. I just don't love it when it's really, really dark, and that's all personal opinion. I use it lots. I like adding a bit of blue to it or a bit of brown to it just to dirty it up with the brown, and just to brighten it up with the green, or with the blue, I should say. Next is a Florentine Green. This one is like your dark, dirty army green, and I really enjoy that. So it's really dark. It's not a really pretty green, but I like it. But I like it. It's another one I like. I like it for shadows. I like it for putting in really dark veins into leaves. I don't mind it for rosebush leaves. Instead of going really bright, I like to go really dark with the leaves sometimes, so that'll work for that. Antica Green Earth, probably my most reached for green in this palette because it's gross. I don't know how else to... I love the dirty, gross colors. It is like baby poop. That's about the only way to explain it. It is literally baby poop green. But you take this color and you add a little bit of Hooker's Green to it just to brighten it up a little bit, or use it on its own, or add some yellow to it. I really like it. I really like it. This is another one that I find more difficult to re-wet, but I love the color enough that it's worth it. It also works really well when I'm painting nighttime scenes for moons, the shadow on the moon, and everything like that. Then we have a Phthalo Green, which is a color I used to reach for all the time. It is so unnatural. This green does not exist, like, in the world. Like, it's not something you would see out in your backyard. You know what I mean? But I don't reach for it as much anymore. I had it for a while for color combination. I used to mix all the time. I don't even remember what it is now. So I haven't used it a ton. I should really find a reason to use it again, but until I do, it's in my palette. I like the color, I just don't paint with it. Cobalt Teal, this is another one that was one of my favorites when I first started watercoloring, and another one I don't reach for as much as I used to. I think it's one of those colors that gets used a lot when people first get into painting because it's so bright and vivid and gorgeous. Like, this color is beautiful. Actually, this is almost the color of my kitchen. So it's absolutely beautiful. I just find that as I've gotten further and further into watercolors, it is not a color I reach for all the time anymore. Some people still do, but even in my florals and stuff, it's just not the color I personally reach for. I still use it. I just, like I said, not as often as I used to. The next one is Pipestone. This is another one that is a natural pigment, so it has no number. This one gets like spots in it of the pigment from the pipestone itself. So it's got, like, instead of saying it granulates, I would say it texturizes. I'll show you once it's dry. I'm not sure if it'll pick it up on camera from as far away as you are right now, but there's like little spots of sediment, I guess is the word I'm looking for, where some chunks of the pigment are heavier than others and they sink down to the bottom, but it's not really granulation. But I love it. That one is probably one of my most emptied pans on this personal palette. Armenian Purple Ochre, which is PR102, is another really pretty one that I like to mix into my florals for shadows because it's nice and dark and granulates, and it's pretty. And it's pretty. Because why would I buy it if I didn't think it was pretty? even the, like when I talk about baby poop, I find the color itself, like to use and stuff, I think it's really pretty. But don't get me wrong, I don't want another baby because I don't want to deal with baby poop. Now I'm rambling, you guys. Okay, I am going to let this one dry so I can tip it up and film the other side and swap out all of my water. Okay, we're back, we're dry, let's carry on. So next up is Buff Titanium. I use this color all the time now. I never used to, but I like how it, again, makes all the other colors dirty. I have this thing, I don't know. So this is made from PW6:1, the same as the next color, which is Titanium Gray, which I really like too. I know Daniel Smith just came out with a Titanium Gray, and I didn't bother because I had already had this one from Stoneground, and I didn't think I needed two of them. I like it for like cement work and stuff like that when I paint buildings or on stones. Yeah, it's kind of a warm gray. It looks cool compared to the Buff Titanium, of course, because that's kind of like a tanny-ish color, but it's a very nice soft gray. I like it. I should put it a little bit more mass tone up there. So those are made from the same pigment, and that's what's fun about watercolors, is how many different colors you can make from the same pigment. You'll notice when I start to get into the browns how many of them are PBR7, like the next one, which is Raw Umber Green shade. So this one has a green undertone to the brown, but it's pretty. I do like the green undertone, especially when I'm painting leaves and things like I have been now with Dawn's class, or Dawn's lives that she's been doing with W+9. We've been learning how to paint leaves, and I'm hoping to get into the flowers soon because I've never been very good at freehanding flowers. It's not been my friend. Next up is a Burnt Umber. Now this is PBR7, but I can't find it on their website, so they may not make it anymore, but I have a full half pan of it here, so I'm going to swatch it and continue using it. And I like it. I like all the browns. When I started, like I said, I was into more of the bright colors, and now I'm like, I love the earth tones and the browns and the more neutral colors and things, but I find that I need them for everything. Like those bright colors, you use them lots, yes, but you still need all of your neutrals and earth tones and stuff to go along with it to paint the other things, right? I think I bumped the camera, sorry about that. Now this one is Raw Umber Dark Neutral. So all three of these colors are made from PBR7, and there is another one a little later on. I think it's the Raw Sienna that is made from the same pigment. So these are all the same pigment number, but it's the way it's processed that allows them to make different colors out of the same pigment. You'll find that with some of the quinacridones too in other lines. There's a bunch of them made with, I think it's PR102 or 202, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yes. Then we have the next one, which is Roman Black. So this one is made from PBK11. That is not one that needs to be pre-wet because it was almost gummy when I picked it up with its dollop of water on it. So we'll blend it out and then I'll make the mass tone again. So it's a nice warm black. I like it when I do animals like critters and things because it's not such a stark black like the bone black is. It's more what I would consider a brown. Just a really, really dark brown. Okay, next up is, I hope we didn't miss anything, my camera card was full, so. Next up is Graphite Gray, which is PBK10. So this is just like what comes out of your pencil. And I like it. I like doing one color paintings in this because it looks like it's water soluble graphite, which is basically what it is, I'm assuming. I would love to get some of that. I haven't found it anywhere locally, but I would love to get my hands on some of that water soluble graphite. Might put it on my my list of things to treat myself with income tax return. But I like that one. I think it's really fun to play with, especially, like I said, as a standalone piece just done with the graphite watercolor. Next up is Gray Ochre. This is another one that the pan I have, I find, needs to soak. Like, it needs to sit with some water on it for a little bit just to help it reactivate. That happens in lots of lines. It's nothing against Stoneground. Doesn't bother me at all. I know that the colors in any line that I know need to reconstitute a little bit and be a little wet and take a little time so that it's workable, I always just drop a couple drops on them, even if I'm not sure I'm going to use them. And last but not least is Bone Black, which is PBK 9. The graphite does not have a pigment number. I mean, the Gray Ochre does not have a pigment number. So I'm assuming it comes from a mineral. I'm not 100% positive. But that's usually when there's no pigment number, it comes from a mineral. So this is Bone Black, which is not as brown as the Roman Black. It's more black than brown. Duh. So that's that one. Now we'll jump into my blues. And the reason these colors are organized this way on the swatch sheet is because this is how they are in my palette. So I just kind of copied them over. So next is Cerulean Blue, which is a color I didn't use forever because I thought it looked ugly. I didn't like the texture. I didn't like how light it was. And then I got into painting water and skies and clouds, and it kind of became a whole infatuation for me for the last year and a half. I do lots of it in my sketchbook. I have a ton of fun with them in different mediums. And I needed this. And I really like it now. I tend to add other colors to it with my sky blue, but I still like it. Ultramarine Blue. Everybody loves Ultramarine Blue. I hate it. Because I just can't, I don't know, I can never find a real good use for it. I don't like how much it granulates. Or then when I want a granulating blue, it doesn't granulate enough. And I'm just never happy with it. And I'm not sure why. And I have Ultramarine Blue in probably every brand of paints that I own. Because it is it's such a common blue. Everybody uses it. And I don't find much of a use for it. I think I might put it into my rotation to learn to use. So I do a lot of that in my sketchbooks. I pull out colors that I don't use very often and find ways to use them and to make them work for things I like to paint, not just for things other people use it for, right? So I start with so-and-so recommends Ultramarine Blue for whatever, and I go from there. I do use it to mix Jane's Gray, but that's about the only time I reach for it is if I want that color. So, Payne's Blue is really pretty. I use it in water, I use it in my greens, I use it for lots of things. Prussian Blue is a newfound love. So, earlier I was talking about Dawn from W+9 and her Facebook group where she does live videos for us. And this is one of her favorite blues. And in turn, I went looking through all of my watercolor collections to see if I had it. Because I don't have it in, my custom palette that I made when I went to Mexico, a year ago. It's not in that palette, and I don't actually own it in a tube at all. So I went looking, and I have it in this palette, and I have it in my Schmincke palette. And I really like it. Lots. So it's definitely one that has been seeing a lot more love from me, and I'm hoping it will continue to, because it is just a ton of fun to play with, and I think it's a really pretty blue. So that one is PB27. And then we have Indentron Blue, which is PB60. This is one I use all the time. All the time. I love Indentrons, Indigos. That whole family is just really pretty to me. Deep, dark, moody blues. Especially if I'm doing space paintings or galaxies or anything like that. This makes a really beautiful night sky, and then you can take that Antica Green Earth and the Buff Titanium and make a really pretty moon on it, and then, oh, that's my phone. And then bounce some whitewash for stars and stuff, and it works really, really pretty, and it's really, really simple because you can get away with it with just that one watercolor. Then we're on to Mayan Blue, Mayan Royal Blue. So these ones, again, are back to no pigments, because they are from natural stones. This one's really pretty. It's kind of like a greeny leaning blue, although the next one leans even more green, but I like it nonetheless. They are really pretty. They granulate. I think all the Mayan colors in the Stoneground line do granulate, which is nice. I like texture in my watercolors. I just find it adds something with the medium. So that is Mayan Royal Blue. And then we have Mayan Indigo Blue. So these ones too, I let, I guess, warm up with water on them. I let soak, just to make them easier to pick up, but I find them really, really pretty. So you can see how the indigo one here is a lot more green than the previous one that I said leaned green on against the white paper. It doesn't look so green anymore once you put this one beside it. But that's how it works when there's things that lean more green. This one's really, really pretty. This one works really well in like turquoise seas and stuff like that. I like it. I think it's pretty. Now more browns. So this is another PBR7. This is Raw Sienna Warm Shade. I keep it with my browns, but I use it a lot like a yellow. It mixes some really dirty baby poop greens super nicely. So I tend to use it a lot for that. And on its own, it's kind of like a deserty color. I really like it. So that's that one. There is one more PBR7 coming up yet as well. Mars Orange, which I keep with my browns as well because it is an earth tone orange. Again, it's one that can be mixed into blues for greens and things of that nature, as well as warming up cooler browns. If you add a touch of it to that, it does a wonderful job just kind of brightening it up and bringing some life to it. It is a very vibrant earth tone, but I like it as an earth tone. So that's Mars Orange. Purrole Red Earth. This one is a red pigment, so it's PR102. And again, it's another nice orangey reddy. This one's like a more of a terracotta color than the Mars Orange, so it's a little more on that red side. I would actually probably use that color itself just to paint terracotta pots if I was painting plants or anything like that. You can use that as your base color and then add in some raw umber or something to it to get your shadow color to add some shadows to it. Now this is Burnt Sienna Crimson, so this is the last PBR7 in the PBR7 collection that I have from Stoneground. This is a nice warm brown. I kind of enjoy this swatching in circles as opposed to squares thing. None of my circles are perfect. I didn't take enough time to bother, but I do kind of like that they're all misshapen circles. Entertains me anyway. Next up and last on in this palette is my Genuine Indian Red. So this is PR101. This is a very pretty Indian red. It's super opaque. Super opaque. Like on my swatch sheet in my palette itself, you actually can't see the black Sharpie line that's underneath of all the swatches. So in its mass tone, it is very, very opaque. So that's that one. And I'm going to pull out this palette, which is all of the neons they released. They were like limited edition. I don't know if they're coming back, but I wanted to swatch them at the bottom here. Okay, let's swatch the neons. So first, now these are probably not going to show up true to color on the screen because they are literally like glow neon, but we'll see how it does. So this is this is highlighter yellow. Literally the exact same color as highlighter yellow. And it probably looks just like yellow on the camera, but that's okay. I still want to swatch them. And in the photo, I'll hopefully be able to capture what they actually look like. So that's Krypton Yellow, and then there was Noble Orange. These are so fun. These are so bright. I never know what to paint with them, but I do really, really love them. Noble Orange. And then Atomic Orange, which is a little darker. This one is like high-vis orange. I work in construction. That's the only thing I can compare it to. This one's brighter, but this one's more of like that high-vis orange tape that they'll use to mark things and stuff like that. And then we have Hydrogen Red. I like this one. This is probably my favorite one out of all of the neons that they did. Like I said, I don't know if this is going to come back. I don't know anything of that nature, but you can find neon paints all over the place, and I really like them, so I'm still going to use them, so I want them in my swatch book. It's kind of the way this rolls. Then we have Helium Pink, which again is highlighter pink. By looking up at the camera, they aren't even close to what they are in person, but they do look really bright, so I don't know. Like I said, I'm hoping that pictures will help it, and I can either get true pictures or edit them to be the right color, which I should be able to do. If not, I have a photography friend. I'll ask her how to do it. Then we have UV Magenta, which is a darker pink. Now, this UV Magenta I may be able to use in place of not having a pink in like a Quinacridone Red or Quinacridone Pink or Quinacridone Rose. I may be able to use this UV Magenta in place of that, but it won't be light fast. So it would be a color that I would not be able to use and like hang it up on my wall, right? Argon Blue. And then we're on to our last one. We will do the metallic colors that I have in another video because I think I'm going to swatch out all of my metallics at the same time, just because that's how I'll go looking for them. So, and this is, I wrote Photon Blue. It's Photon Green. Jessie, you silly goose. It's Photon Green. So I will have to fix that name problem, but obviously it's green and not blue, right? Right. So that is a Photon Green. So that is all of my Stoneground paints in my personal collection. I hope those of you that have been, that's the arm of my tripod here, sorry about that. Those of you that have been waiting for this are happy, and it gives you kind of a look at what I have for colors. What is missing out of here is Vivianites. I have the list. Manganese Violet, Mayan Yellow, Lemon Ochre, Mayan Green, Nicosia Green Earth, and Azurite. So I'm going to pick those, 3, 6, 7 colors up the next time I'm in the city so that I can swatch those ones out for you in a little haul video so you can see the entire line of non-metallic Stoneground paints. And I will see you guys very soon in another video. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.